as you all know, this symposium that we're now in the middle of is a tribute to President Johnson, and not just his legacy, but his lasting impact on public policy. As I told those of you who were here at the beginning this afternoon, while there have been many events that have been planned around the centennial celebrations, we at the school in particular wanted to have our signature event be one that not simply look backwards, but rather try to do what we here at the school are all about, which is to try to think about how to have an impact looking forward, and how we can look and learn from the Johnson administration and the Johnson era to make a difference today. So it's particularly appropriate that we have as our speaker tonight a person who really is the embodiment of both a deep understanding of the implications and significance of the Johnson era, the Johnson administration, but also somebody who is one of the most influential speakers, thinkers, writers, and doers in contemporary domestic policy. And somebody who, as I say, has had an extraordinary career in public service. I mean, it's really quite remarkable, the range of his roles, both during the Johnson administration, both at the Pentagon and the White House, and then on into the Carter administration, where some of you know was my first opportunity to intersect in a very minor way with Secretary Califano. I was a lowly special assistant for the Assistant Secretary of Planning and Evaluation at the beginning of the Carter administration, but got to see firsthand what a force of nature Secretary Califano was, and the kind of impact he made, and his deep, deep commitment, passion for public policy and for making a difference. And it made a difference in my life and really shaped a lot of what I subsequently chose to do. And it's fitting, I think, as we begin to think about the prospects and the potential for a new administration in Washington, that we have somebody who both understands the importance of the past and the accomplishments of the Johnson administration, but can understand how they remain so powerful and relevant to today's contemporary challenges. So without further ado, let me ask you to join me in welcoming Joseph Califano.
By the numbers, the legacy of Lyndon Johnson is monumental. It exceeds in domestic impact even the New Deal of his idol Franklin Roosevelt. It sets him at the cutting edge of the nation's progressive tradition. But there's also a very important story behind these programs that speaks to the future, that offers the lessons of what it takes to be an effective president. What lessons do the presidencies of LBJ and FDR hold for Barack Obama? First, move boldly and quickly with your programs to make our government the generous, merciful, and just instrument of all the people. Let your presidency be guided by LBJ's signature admonition. Do it now, not next week, not tomorrow, not later today, now. However grand your margin of victory, however adoring the crowds and the media, your time is limited before the opposition will take your measure. Choose your priorities carefully and move swiftly to accomplish them within your first 100 days, as both FDR and LBJ did. Second, Barack Obama, take the progressive fork in the road and stay on it. FDR and LBJ were proud, unabashed progressives who eschewed the center. For them, government was neither a bad man to be tarred and feathered, nor a bagman to collect campaign contributions. To Lyndon Johnson, government was not a bystander, hoping wealth and opportunity might trickle down to the least among us. To him, government was a mighty wrench to open the fountain of opportunity so that everybody could bathe in the shower of our nation's blessings. History makes clear that presidents who held fast to the progressive path, notably Roosevelt and Johnson, had the greatest long-term impact on American society. There are a few lasting accomplishments in the presidencies of those who have snuggled in the security of the center. It is the committed and tenacious progressives whose accomplishments change the course of our nation for the better and nourish the finest in our people. Third, back your boldness with courage. Johnson showed how much a truly courageous political leader can accomplish. To me, no greater example of presidential courage exists than Lyndon Johnson's commitment in the area of civil rights. He fought for racial equality even when it hurt him and clobbered his party in the South. Still, Johnson kept on. In 1965, he pushed the Voting Rights Act through Congress. In 1966, he proposed fair housing to end discrimination in housing. His proposal promised the most vitriolic mail we received at the White House. Congress refused to act on the bill that year. Fourth, Barack Obama, use your political power to harness the private sector and muster bipartisan support. Johnson married his progressive zeal, impatience, and courage to a phenomenal sense of how to use power skillfully, to exploit a mandate, to corral votes, to reach across the aisle in order to move this nation, its people, and the Congress forward. He was brilliantly opportunistic, calling upon the nation and the Congress in the wake of even the most horrific tragedies, the assassinations of John Kennedy and Martin Luther King, to bring a new measure of social justice to all Americans. So should Obama take advantage of the opportunities that the enormous crises he faces as president present. LBJ offers a defining lesson in the importance of mustering bipartisan support. Those Great Society proposals were cutting edge. They were controversial, progressive initiatives, and he assiduously courted Republican members of Congress to support them. It was not only that we needed Republican votes to pass bills like civil rights, health, education, and consumer laws. He saw bipartisan support as an essential foundation on which to build lasting commitment among the American people. You know, there's an historical cadence to the progressive tradition, and I think it is fitting and fair that we regard Barack Obama as charged with composing the third volume in the progressive trilogy begun by FDR and LBJ. Johnson built on the accomplishments and brought to reality programs that FDR and his New Deal has only dreamed of. Like Roosevelt, who abandoned the idea of including health care coverage in his Social Security legislation and lost many legislative battles after his first 100 days, Lyndon Johnson did not get all he wanted. And just as Roosevelt left an unfinished agenda for LBJ, so LBJ has left an unfinished agenda for Barack Obama. Johnson tried unsuccessfully to get Congress to expand Medicare to cover prenatal care and children through age 6. He used to say, if we can get that, future presidents and Congresses can close the gap between 6 and 65. At a moment in our history when a black American is preparing to assume the presidency, many domestic issues dominate our debate. Access to health care, persistent poverty amidst plenty, our need for affordable higher education and effective public schools, environmental protection. All of these issues, all of them, are issues that LBJ put on the national government's agenda. It's now time to take to heart the many lessons of his presidency. It's time to take off the Vietnam blinders and let our eyes and ears and minds learn from the domestic dimension of this presidency. Let everyone think what they will about Vietnam. And incidentally, there may be a lesson for Obama in the tragedy of Vietnam, not only to get out of Iraq, but to think hard and long before increasing troop levels in Afghanistan and making other entangling military commitments. That legacy also endures, let us remember, in the unfinished business of this nation's long progressive movement that he pressed so impatiently for us to finish. LBJ knew that the progressive new movement could be stalled, but he knew that it must never be stopped. And that legacy endures as a history lesson that can help Barack Obama write the third volume in a trilogy of progressive government to complement the earlier volumes crafted by Franklin Roosevelt and Lyndon Johnson. Thank you.